Hey friends, welcome to episode number 3 of the Hero's Journey podcast. Today, I have with me an exciting guest, a guy who I just recently met, but we've shared a good bit of time together since then, and I'm super excited to share with you all this conversation. Jesse is a really cool guy, and I'm excited to begin to get into some of his stories, some of his current hero's journey, some of his creative outlets, and ultimately why he came to Colorado from Florida. So I present to you Jesse Gold. Jesse, I'll pass it over to you. What do you want the people to know about you? Just like a brief summary of who you are, what you stand for, what you do, how you spend the time. I'll leave it pretty open-ended for you.
Yeah. Dude, I just came out to Colorado. My whole ethos of life is to not only grab it by the horns, but be intentional about my actions. I want to be intentional about what I'm doing in this life. So that being said, I'm just here for the vibes, man. I really just I'm settled into a running cadence. I'm settled into writing, creative writing, and just sort of helping people advance their movement capacity and skill set. I'm pretty open-ended, but
elaborate more about that the movement part, because I'm sure people will get into your Instagram, but you're like always doing some crazy movement patterns, it seems, and you're in great shape. So elaborate a bit more on that piece and why that's close to your heart.
Yeah, I think it's something that I wouldn't be able to not do. I think I would lose my mind. It's a channel for me. It's medicinal. It's necessary. It's the aesthetic is, of course, I love to look good, look naked, and all that, but it's not it goes much deeper for that than for me. I think it's for me a way for me to, it's like a way for me to develop myself physically and a way for myself to develop myself spiritually. I think it's a way for me to know myself a bit better each day, to ride this metaphorical roller coaster up and down. And I get to sort of uncover this human experience and all the richness that it is in movement practice, and the many forms that it takes.
Yeah. So you, for the folks back home, just moved to Colorado from South Florida. Just elaborate more about like why you made that move. You've previously been in Colorado, like a previous time in your life. So kind of like going back, I guess keep it kind of high level, but like why did you ultimately choose to come back to Colorado?
Yeah, it felt like a natural pivot in life. It felt like a natural pivot in life because there's a feeling, there's like an intuitive guidance that that points me in this direction, right? And to sound less woo-woo ethereal, I think more pragmatically speaking, I can build a lifestyle out here that I actually love.
Yeah.
I can trail run in the morning. I can, go river rafting and do all the recreational activities that are so exciting about Colorado.
Yeah.
For me and for a lot of people that come here, and that's the other part is the people, right? Mm-hmm. It's the community aspect. It's the fact that, we just met the other day and are sitting here having a great conversation. Like we can do that. It's beautiful. So community is a fantastic and huge part of that. It's freaking massive.
You and I had gone on a run a few times over the past week or so. Trail run, so fun. Just got some elevation. It's pretty warm here in Colorado, so they weren't like crazy long trail runs. But one thing that you and I had connected on, and I think would be kind of helpful to share, is we're both East Coasters, right? I was born and raised in Atlanta, from Georgia. You're born and raised in South Florida. I believe it's Jupiter. Yeah. And what struck me when I first moved out here is the amount of hobbies people have. Like everybody is into skiing, and then they have a winter sport, they have a summer sport, they have all these things that prioritize movement and prioritize flow. That's another thing that we had connected on, is a lot of things that you do out here: trail running, skiing, mountain biking, fly fishing, So many other things, river rafting, they all are like are very easy to get into this like flow state, which I think is really important to kind of push the boundaries in your life to like get into that flow state. So yeah, like in what ways do you like to get into that state, and like why is it so therapeutic for you?
Yeah, for sure. Flow state for me is trail running. Flow state for me is handstand practice. Um, Flow state for me, especially beyond the movement practice, is writing. Is
Yeah.
writing, to sit down and to sort of articulate my thoughts and digest and metabolize the experiences that I'm having internally, and give them the wordless words, so I can understand myself and what's happening. That's a way for me to tap into flow well, um, just in an intellectual sense, but I can get beyond my mind. So writing is massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for a little backstory, the name of this podcast, The Hero's Journey. So it's essentially based on this premise that all great people have this evolution that they go through, this set of being in the world and feeling ill-equipped for what the world is throwing at them. And then they go through this huge series of trials, tribulations, growth. They have mentors, they hit their low point, all these different things that then, you become the person that you're ultimately meant to be. And you strike me as a person that is very comfortable in your own skin and extremely almost like enlightened. Like it's a good vibe around you because you have this, it feels like you have this level of like self-awareness that is very hard to find in other people. I don't know if you get that a lot. Is that like a common thing that you get? Because it's definitely something that I've noticed.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the compliment, I guess. It's freaking awesome. It's something that I've spent a long time working on, and there's a whole bunch of trauma, like life trauma. It's sort of like, I think I've overcompensated and said, I will be the guy that, I'll be that motherfucker, that kind of energy. But really what it's been is, that's what the writing has been. Yeah, of course, people reach out at this point and, I don't have a massive following or anything, but I think I'm able to impact people through writing, and people are like, there's just this profound depth, which is super cool because I do feel that, and I felt that for a long time, and I've always, it's been a strength, I guess. Like it's been something that I've felt really good about, and it feels really good. More importantly, than the compliment part, to help other people by sharing that depth with the world, or that person. Sometimes it's one person. That's all I care about, really. Selfishly, it's great to get the feedback, compliments. It feels good to my ego.
Totally.
But it feels really good to know, like, somebody reached out and like, hey, I had an emotional breakdown last night, and I just read that, and it was like, it spoke to me, and that's all I have to hear. I'm like, it's fucking beautiful. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I think that can help. Yeah.
Yeah. I think all great artists, it starts as something that you're doing just for yourself, right? So the writing is kind of just your emotional like release, or finding a way to like get out of your head. But then the added bonus is that other people like it and other people resonate with it, right? Yeah. But like true art or true creative outlets are, it's selfish at first, but then it becomes selfless. You had mentioned, as you were walking through that, a bit about trauma and a bit about kind of like your life being a little like wild and crazy before you kind of got to this place where you seem a little more enlightened and chill. It seems like everybody that gets to that point of emotional resilience has had this hellfire, or have had those things that are extremely difficult, and they've kind of had to learn to compensate for those hard times. So as much as you'd like to share, like, would love to get into a bit about like what, if you're comfortable, about like those things that were difficult in your life, and then how ultimately that brought you to to writing, like those first few times when you were like, oh, maybe I can start writing and then maybe I can start sharing this? Like, what was that kind of end to end process like?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would say, I don't know what age, maybe 5. I don't think I was ever, I'm sure other people have this experience, but specifically for myself, I never really felt like I fit in to the crowd, at middle school or elementary school, all the way up um, the school system ladder, through 12th grade, even college. There was a point where I'm just like, I don't feel comfortable in my own skin around other people. I don't feel comfortable expressing myself. Wasn't horrible, but I had been bullied. I had, yeah, just not accepted for who I was. So I took to martial arts. Thank goodness my parents got me into it. I was like 5 when they got me into it. It was just something where I can orient my attention towards my energy, really sharpen that attention sword towards, so it doesn't become dull. And I think that's actually something that's really that I've harped on, and I've realized when I look back, it's like that's where my awareness, I think, comes from. It's like the origins find itself in martial arts.
Yeah.
But the thing about, not feeling comfortable in my skin and having to grow up and be like, I need to channel this energy into something. I feel like I'm gonna explode. I'd have outbursts. I think at one point when I was 16, my parents brought me to a psychologist, and they're like, are you on the spectrum? Kind of thing. Like, are you like mildly autistic kind of thing? And it just made me feel really unsettled because I'm like, is there something wrong with me?
Yeah.
And that's how I took it. I was internalized that as a really like a slight, like that's how it came across, and even the psychologist. And so I took that personally. And I just had to channel that energy into something. I'm like, well, I'll show them that there's nothing wrong with me. I was a bad communicator. All these things that I think I've gotten better at.
Totally.
I've made strengths. I used to not be able to communicate my feelings at all, not look people in the eye, not be able to hold space, all the things, that sort of facilitate good interpersonal communication, and space holding. So I guess long story short, it was, I think, being bullied and just not feeling like fit into social hierarchies and groups. There's a kind of I was an outsider in a lot of senses. And I think it built an ego around being better than people. I think that was my coping mechanism to say like, well, I actually don't fit in, but it's actually a good thing because I'm actually better than everybody. Nobody understands me. And it's just a way to cope. It's just reinforcing an ego pattern or structure that makes you feel like it's okay. I can justify why I don't fit in. So, and it's led me to this, now I write, and I don't even know what I do half the time. I'm just like doing life, and it just expresses itself in different ways, and it's fun.
There's a great quote by Hemingway. He was asked like, how do you write these novels? And he's like, I just sit down and I bleed. That's what he said. And I was like, wow, that's literally what it is. It's like you take all of your negative feelings or even positive feelings and you just spill them out. And the more authentic and the more close you can get to that emotion, the better and more raw and more authentic the writing is. But yeah, thanks for sharing. I know it's the school system is difficult in that it's extremely cliquey and extremely like who you're friends with and what you do and if you're on the football team or if you're on the bad baseball team, like if you're athletic, you're more popular. There's all these things that I feel like people carry with them forever, like just these slight little things when you're in high school or when you're in middle school that like this guy like bullied me or this guy just said something rude to me. I remember I was a freshman. This is so funny. I'm remembering this right now, but there was a moment where I was walking down the hall in high school and I was a freshman and I was scared and nervous, and like this senior comes up, he's huge, I'm tiny, and he like said something to me about like how small I was and like laughed with all his friends. And it like hurt in the moment, but like I was like, I already know that this guy's a freaking idiot. Like that I don't know, I just kind of had that like self-awareness to like see past all of these like bullshit social things that happen
Yeah.
in college or in high school. All that to say, I think people carry a lot of those scars with them into the real world, into relationships. I mean, I certainly did. So yeah, thanks for sharing. I guess like
Totally.
looking forward into like your creative process, writing. Yeah, I guess explain a bit about your like what you write, who you write for besides yourself, and like your audience. You mentioned you have a Substack. We'll put that link in the chat below. But yeah, just go ahead and I guess like share as much as or as little as what that process is and who it's for and what types of writing that you do there.
Yeah. Um, Substack for me is a place where I can escape the people that I knew and tap into the world that I feel in myself, and to give that more like a foundation. Um, I write for myself. I write for the feelings that want to be heard but just haven't. For the little boy in myself that never got that approval, inner child, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And so in that sense, for myself, because I give that little boy validation. I'm like, hey, I see you. It's all good. I guess you call it reparenting or whatever, but just call it being fucking seen.
Yeah.
Acknowledged,
right,
empowered. So that's what it is for me, and it's just catharsis. It's a feeling of expression, all the unresolved emotions, letting it out, crying as I write it. Usually when I'm writing, I'm not just sitting here typing, like just staring glossy-eyed into a screen. It's like I'm glossy, but I'm gonna be crying or I'm mad. It's usually I'm more crying than anything. And because I feel like I'm writing to feel. I write so that I can feel alive. Because I feel desensitized a lot of the time. I feel like I'm so removed from day to day. I think I need a higher level of stimulation than the average person to find presence sometimes.
Yeah.
Coupled with the idea, I think I'm very sensitive in general. So like if I'm around a lot of stimulation, I can do it. But that's why I find myself in nature. And so that's what inspires me.
Yeah.
Hence the trail running, all this. But I write for other people in the sense that I write for the person rather that feels that they are not heard, that feels like their emotions are just theirs, or the thoughts that go in their head, that run around their head rather. Nobody else has those thoughts. I'm like, well, I hope you can read this and feel otherwise, and feel that you're not isolated. They're actually a collective.
Yeah.
And we function as like metaphorical ants building a colony. We're a colony building an anthill.
Right.
However you want to call it, cells in a human body. We're all different, working for different organs, and those organs are working on a larger scale for the body, and the body's working in the world. So as above, so below. I try to give people that perspective. So for the other person, I write so that they can feel like they have a better grasp on their role in life. I'm not telling them what to do, but I'm trying to point a finger at the one thing that we all know within ourselves, and that love, God, and whatever you want to call it, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care about the name, but just the feeling that we all have within.
Yeah.
That loving feeling.
Awareness. We're always constantly trying to move towards that feeling of love, but it's fleeting. Yeah. That's the tough part about it, is that it comes in waves, and when it's there, it's like, oh, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And then when it's gone, it feels like part of you is like missing. Yeah.
Well, I would say, I would even say to that, like, to add on, it's like, I think people build these identities, which I think is important. Yeah. I think, from my perspective, and being a human being, like, we have awareness, right? There's like a seer behind this mind, this monkey mind, like somebody witnessing the thoughts, somebody witnessing, and in long enough meditation or deep enough, or you're in flow state, whatever you're doing, you're like, I'm kind of watching myself do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm not actually the person doing the thing, but I'm like the person driving the vehicle that is the body, doing the activity. Hence the flow state, whatever you want to call that. So the loving feeling, I think it's really important for people to, well, I would just say it's really important for people to find something that it doesn't have to look like a seated meditation, in my opinion. It looks like whatever brings you fucking joy, drawing, like just coming back to the
Yeah.
the juju, like whatever
Yeah.
that the juice is. And I
Yeah.
think that people sort of compartmentalize, form an identity around what society's told them it should be, the whole spiel, around fitting in a box.
Yeah.
And I think people forget they're in a box sometimes, and they have the key to get out of it.
Right.
People play victim and
Yeah.
that whole rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So
on a tactical side of things, if there were a person that were looking to try and reactivate that side of themselves, get into a hobby that they love, get into that like self-love thing that is so like difficult for men to deal with, I find. Like, for context, I got out of a relationship about a year ago, and the reason I was struggling with it so much is because I was lacking this self-worth and self-love that I had always thought was just like fluff and absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
But I was looking for validation from the other person that I couldn't give myself. And so then I was putting all that on her as opposed to giving that to myself. And so after that, I went down this huge rabbit hole of like, how do I develop this self-love again? Like, how do I like hug my inner child, or any sort of like woo-woo way of talking about it? But like, it was real and it manifested in my life. And I was like, damn, like, this is a really good lesson for me to learn right now when I'm 26, as opposed to when I'm 40 or, later on down the road. So how would you encourage people to begin to rekindle that for themselves?
To rekindle it, I think you have to first find the spark, and you have to find the spark by getting quiet. I think you have to look. For me, I like to go out into the woods. I like to go out into the ocean and surf. I like to remove myself from the stimulation of society and all the mechanical nature of society. Like, just away from cars and social stimulation and opinions, and just be in my own mind. I need to sit with myself. And nature is that vehicle for me, that sort of container that I find, like an organic distillation of like everything that's heavy falls away, which is the societal stuff, every voice that is not mine, everything that I don't feel. It's usually not a voice, it's usually just a feeling. And it usually gets masked by society, by just literally society, noise, the parents, the whatever, all of that which is not you. So for people though, I think, it's about getting quiet. It's about hearing and getting uncomfortable, because I do understand that for a lot of people, it is a really uncomfortable thing. It's uncomfortable for me a lot of the time. I've grown comfortable with it. But to get uncomfortable and avoid the distractions, I think is a massive thing. The phone, just turning on, being aware of like having, I don't know, PM routine, being like, hey, no screen time after 9 p.m., whatever your time is, an hour or two before bed. I understand everybody has different circumstances in life, but just to have an hour when you wake up, or a half hour, to be intentional about having your coffee and sitting and just giving yourself that presence to sit with the thoughts, to take a breath, to allow yourself the space to take a breath, allow yourself the space literally to breathe. Notice the fluctuation of inhale and exhale, and you're like, oh, okay, I can feel that. And now it's like I'm aware that I'm feeling it, and then it draws you into the present moment. It's that simple, I think. So I think that's a great start for people, is obviously just get present and namaste and all, but to give it grounding and application is to go for a walk, go do an activity that you really enjoy. Find a flow state activity, low barrier to entry. I call it a walk. It's a quiet walk for me.
Nice.
Usually nature.
Love it. I think everybody. Well, what I'll say and what immediately came to mind when you were talking about that is it's easy to, when you're alone, right, to not easy, but like it's easier to be able to fully breathe and to be aware of your stimulation levels when you're by yourself. But what I find, and I've started this, I've meditated a bit. I like doing the quiet mornings, like unstimulated mornings before I log on for work. And that's like relatively easy because you learn to love it and you're very conscious and aware of yourself. But I found that over the, I don't know, past few weeks, maybe when I'm like in person or with other people around more stimulation, that I find myself like breathing more shallow because I'm not like fully aware of what's going on with me. I'm so focused on the, you know, all the other things going on.
Totally.
I just, yeah, noticed that like, hey dude, like you need to like fully exhale. You need to like focus on breathing and like all these like simple things that you subconsciously do when you're in public and around other people because you're not aware and you're kind of like focused on external things. So yeah, it's just something that I've been like noticing recently.
Totally. I would add on to that as well and say, you know, as important as it is to sort of curate a setting where you can have a daily meditation practice, your daily walk, or sit with your coffee, whatever that looks like for you, whatever that quiet space is to observe and settle, let the dust settle kind of thing in your mind. I think then carrying it into the world and not just keeping it, let's use the yoga mat context, like not just keep it on the yoga mat, right? That feeling of like I found center and I'm on my yoga high right now. That's great, but like, or a psychedelic experience, mushrooms, ayahuasca, all these things. Well, that's great. You can have the revelations and I think the awareness, right? But then it's the integrative qualities. So like, well, I have this awareness now. Can I sit here in conversation with somebody where I might know, okay, oh, that feeling, I can feel that I have a tight chest. Well, can I take a breath? Why am I not? Maybe they're judging me. You know, it's just like all these thoughts. You're just like, you know, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I thinking these things? You know, and then I realize, well, it goes deep. You know, all this like mental fascia, you know, which the fascia is super supportive of your structure, your body, right? But it can get tight, get dehydrated. It can sort of, I don't want to say calcify, but definitely be constricting. The very thing that supports you can suffocate you. So I think it's really important to become aware of that, which is suffocating, and be like, oh, cool, I can relax. Because I think in person too, you're trying to regulate or co-regulate your nervous system, something like this, right? I don't know the actual
like
terminology.
You're getting feedback from the other person, right? If the other person's stressed out, that's gonna like come over to me, and it's gonna elevate my heart rate and make me a little more stressed out. Like we're all like getting this feedback from each other.
Totally. We're like playing like nonverbal ping pong. It's like we're just sort of mirrors of that, and we're just picking up on nuances, like your subconscious mind, and probably we're not aware of it right now, maybe of like 90% of it. But anyways, it's fascinating, dude. Psychology is so fucking deep.
I learned a fact that was like 30% of communication is verbal, right? So 70%, way more than half, almost 3/4 of communication is body language, energy levels, like what the other person is telling you based on, you know, nothing that they're saying, like based on what they're wearing or what they're doing. I don't know, like that's so interesting to me. I always thought that if I said the right thing, that would be fine, but people are picking up on all this other shit.
It's huge, man. That's something that I realized when I was a kid, and going back to the whole being bullied and the sort of not being able to communicate my thoughts and feelings. I had to learn to read people non-verbally really well, because I built up this idea that like I can't have a good conversation because I'm not confident enough to sit and make eye contact. And so I started observing really intensely, like just almost overcompensating. And then it's like
you're observing too much.
There's like an over observation, but it's also a sharpening of that sword in a positive way, where that becomes a superpower. The very thing that was a weakness before now becomes like, it's reading intention. I think like I got really good at reading people's intentions, and I think it speaks, like their actions speak louder than the words ever will. Rarely are people aligned with what they say, think, and do. I know that's a quote of some sort, but I've already said it. But anyways, it's just like observing what people are saying, but not their words, like what their body's saying, somatically speaking, through their body language. And I think it's such a hugely understated and underrated skill. Understanding body language, regulating your nervous, these things, right? Like all the unspoken, very subtle ways of communication. And regulation.
Going back, I want to hit on this point that you brought up earlier about psychedelics. We've connected about psychedelics. Like I'm a huge proponent of psychedelics, and I think I think they're great and they're a tool to make you more aware and make you more conscious and take you out of this loop that's going on in our brain 24/7 of I wake up, I drink coffee, I go to work, I do this, I have and it like there's a higher self that you're channeling and that therefore can dictate your real life. That's where the therapeutic effects of them come, is when it actually implements into what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, your relationships, your work, different things, how you process things throughout the day, as opposed to just going to this, taking ayahuasca in Peru, but then not changing your life when you come back. That's the only, I'm a very like practical person. I'm a pragmatic person. I'm like, it doesn't really matter if the change isn't going to be made. So yeah, like, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? Like, I know that's kind of open-ended, but how have you seen your experience, like, and it change, you take the medicine, but it actually change who you are, back in the States or like day to day?
Yeah. I could speak to a couple of experiences, one of which is the first time that I ever took a psychedelic, besides smoking cannabis, but a classic psychedelic would be the mushrooms, right? Psilocybin mushrooms. Psilocybin being the active component, or psilocin, essentially. But anyway, so it took some strong, they call it penis envy. I thought it was the funniest name. I'm like, you know what? It ain't funny because they're strong.
Yeah.
And it turns out they fucking rock your world. And so I think I ate like a gram and a half. I was 16. I sold my stereo system in my room for a few grams of mushrooms for my cousin, my brother, and I. And it was Thanksgiving. We were just like, this is gonna be great. Beautiful night. It was like 75 degrees outside. You're not worried about things. I was not worried about one thing in my life. I was just like, we're having good dinner. I'm on holiday break. I'm in high school. I don't care about anything right now. Let's do it. Peace. It's my day. So I had the mushrooms. We ate that night, or that day. I walked down to the beach, and it was the first time in my life where I just realized, the sky really is blue. Wow. I just kind of noticed things, but I wasn't as connected to my environment. I realized how much I learned to be, to desensitize myself, like as a coping mechanism. So sort of be apathetic, right? In conversations that I'm not aware of or not privy to, right? Like you can't fight, you can't leave, like fight or flight, then freeze. And my freeze was to literally like go on a rocket ship out of my head, and I'd see what's going on, but I'm not really engaged. I'm here. Present. I'm not present at all. I'm here, but I'm not.
Yeah.
It's a shell of who I am. And so, anyways, I experienced kind of 16. I was just like, oh, this is a thing. I didn't really know how to internalize that. It was just a point of like a seed was planted. And then fast forward, I had a few experiences between 16 and 29 now. So 13 years of life. And just last year, I had my first ayahuasca experience. And that's when I realized it was more an affirmational experience of like, dude, you know what you're doing. Trust yourself. It was just a self-trust thing. Like, can you just trust your intuition? Can you trust, like, it's a very concrete thing too. It's not intuition like woo fucking out there. No, it's actually anything but out there. It's right here. It's so intelligent.
Yeah.
I don't need to have all the answers to make a decision because I'm so I'm held captive by my mind, with overthinking, overanalyzing, over intellectualizing my emotions to the point where it's an avoidance mechanism to kind of circumnavigate around my emotional state or emotions. Because it's super uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't want to get vulnerable. Yeah. But I'm not thinking I don't want to get vulnerable. I'm just like, well, I can just write 10 pages about it, publish as an essay, and people like it and validate me.
Yeah.
And it sounds intelligent, right? It probably is, but it's not actually. It's literally avoiding the work, shadow work, whatever you want to call that. Mm-hmm. So I realized that in the ayahuasca journey, it was just like, you do have a lot going on here, and there's a lot of dark shit. And I think in that experience, I was aware of it, chose not to go and do it, but it was I was made very much aware that I have the power, a lot more power than I think, to make radical change in my life, systemic, but really just trust that you are the one to change your life, that you cannot outsource change to other people or other entities or time, because time will pass and you won't change.
Yeah.
Or you will, but it won't be the type of change that that's resonant with you in your journey, your dharma, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, that's I think it's important to really dial into your intuition and to find ways to understand and trust yourself enough to where when your intuition is pointing you one way, you don't hesitate in taking that step. Every time I've only done psilocybin, but macrodose many times, and every time I'm looking for something, or I'm like using this to like bring out something, some sort of answer, it's an answer that's always been inside of me the whole time. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the beauty of these things, I find, is that they're just accentuating who you are, and they're making you more of you without these societal things that are telling us what to wear and what to be and who to love and all this different stuff. So it's, I think the intuition part is really important. And that's been my experience, just to begin to start trusting myself more.
It's beautiful.
I would a beautiful process.
Add on something too. There's the self-trust element, right? But then there's the, oh boy, I just had a brain fart with it. Wow, totally fudged that.
It'll come back.
It will. It'll float back. What were you about to say?
No, that's all I had.
Shit, it was like, you know, when it's like something it felt super important, that's like, there it goes.
Yeah. And you probably had it. Like
it was like, it's there. Can't wait to talk. And then it's like, it's whatever.
It's all right.
Yeah, that's practice too. Like,
it'll come back.
It's all good.
Yeah. You just got to let it go.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I want to get into a little bit more about like what, like where you see writing going forward for you. Like, do you have any sort of like big goals? Are you like a goal-oriented person, or like how do you operate? Are you just very present in like what you're doing and that's kind of it? Or do you have these kind of like big ambitions with like creative outlets and building things for other people?
Yeah, I think there's a total balance. Like, I'm massively ambitious, massively, but I also am learning pretty recently, relatively, right, in the past few years, really couple, that I need to create a container. I would massively benefit rather from creating a system, right? Strategy. Like, you don't create a company without creating a strategy or system for that company, right? It's not just, you know, like mental diarrhea, or just throw out and then, you know, brilliance just flies out of your mouth. Like, I think brilliance needs structure. I think ideas need structure. So I do have a lot of ambition, but I've learned with the writing particular, Substack has become a structure because I understand it as a publication. It's a place for me to store my ideas and give it a format. You know, I can and it feels really cool to be able to do that. So now that I've gotten to like, you know, 30 articles or something, just been consistent. I only started 5 months ago, but it was something I'd be consistent with. That structure, that's strategy. As I said what I was going to do, set out to do. Bigger ambitions with the writing. I would like to write a journaling book for people, because this is my way to add on a little bit of flavor from before. And you're like, well, practices help you get into flow. Specifically, it's journaling, you know, free writing, but I kind of have a format at this point and sort of a system for myself. So I want to create a bit of a loose system structure for people to almost like learn how to journal for themselves. Yeah. How to express and articulate ideas, things that come so easily to me now. You know, when you're really good at something, I think I won't say good, to my own horn, but like I got really good at something, you get really good at something. You're not really aware of it. You're like living in a vacuum until somebody's like, dude, you're really fucking good at that. You should maybe share that. Yeah. And so I realized that pretty recently, and I was like, oh, I'm going to make a thing. I'll make a journal. Call it a book, whatever.
Just like a framework for
a framework. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So can you get into like what that framework is, like a little bit more? Is it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's something that's still in development. I mean, for me, it's pretty simple. I turn on a timer for 25 minutes. I say, hey, I'm going to write for 25 minutes. Doesn't matter what I get to, if I'm on fire when that timer goes off. Doesn't matter if I am dead halfway through with no thoughts. I'm just going to keep writing.
Yeah.
But usually I sit for 30 seconds. In the first 30 seconds of that 25-minute timer, and I just breathe. I don't even start writing. It's like close my eyes. I don't even stare at the screen. I just take a breath. And I don't have any goal for writing other than to type.
Yeah.
And it's usually typing, by the way. It's on a laptop, but I think longhand is important, like writing in a journal.
Yeah.
It slows your mind down a lot, which is another practice. But
yeah, I've been writing like in this journal right here, and like my hand starts cramping. I'm like, damn, I can't finish everything. I can't write fast enough because my mind is flying and my hand can only keep up. So it's just funny, like these modern inconveniences, like everybody used to write back in the day, but now everybody types. So
it's you lose it, or you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, why is my hand?
My hands ain't as strong. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah. Sorry for that aside.
No, you're good. I think it's a great point. One that deserves attention too, like writing cursive even. But well, the cursive is debatable, but the framework sort of thing. What I've gotten to is I give myself 25 minutes to free write. I write whatever is on my mind. It's usually me narrating, me starting about what's going on in my head, my life. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. What I say rather is what I notice with people is like, well, I don't know what to write. Well, write that you don't know how to write. I don't know how to write. I feel this way. Those are thoughts.
That'll pop in the next thought. You'll get that out of your head, and then that'll bring the next thing.
That's the thought.
Yeah.
and then it's avoidance, not writing out the I don't know how. Well, say that. Be vulnerable, because that's an act of vulnerability. It's writing on a piece of paper, and then you're looking back at it like, holy shit, that just came out of my head. Well, there you go. You're starting to write. Write little pop. Most people that I know that lay in bed at night, let's say everybody, let's say some people are like, I can't go to bed because my mind's on all night. Well, it's like, great. Then get up at night before you go to bed and make a practice of writing out those thoughts. Have a trigger, right? Maybe it is laying down for 5 minutes in bed and be like, there's the thoughts. Get up, go and write for 25 minutes. Doesn't have to be in the morning.
Yeah.
Works for some people in the morning, works for me in the morning.
Yeah. Some
people it's at night, they're night owls, or their mind runs rampant.
Yeah.
Sit down for 25 minutes. And mentally diarrhea all over the page.
Yeah.
Into the page, through it. Like, don't hold back. It takes practice, but I think you just let it go. So I think for me, the framework, it's more educational at this point, in the sense that I'm talking about what people, all the avoidance mechanisms people like, they notice about they don't notice about themselves. Oh, I'm not good at writing. Oh, these, my vocabulary sucks. Great, then start. Here's some tools. What I mean to say by that is it's still under development. I don't think I have a clear framework yet. It's more like, let me go on Substack and write out my thoughts, the thing that I'm good at right now.
Yeah.
I think I'll get there. I think I'll get to the more concrete framework. But essentially, I want to create a journal that allows people to do what I do and benefit the way that I benefit. Whether that works or not, I have no idea. Maybe it's just a total fudge. I fudged it, but I suspect. And an idea here too is that I think everybody should be a scientist of their own life. I think that you should form your own hypotheses using your own critical thinking and critical observations of life. Be bold enough to form a unique hypothesis about a situation or a thought or event, and then go test it in the real world. Have a control, have the real thing. See how they match up.
Yeah.
Like, go test your ideas in the real world, essentially.
Yeah.
And form your own ideas about life, and then write about it if you want.
Yeah.
And that's what I do, and it works great.
Yeah.
I think that's what's given me a good level of presence and just meta awareness. Just sit in a conversation and be aware that I'm in a conversation, and not just be reactionary to what the other person, and not feel like I'm constantly on guard. It's like, no, let's make this a game. Life is a game.
Yeah.
And there's a series of games within the game.
Right.
That's a framework in itself. It's fucking awesome to think that way. I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fun.
I like to think of life as just a bunch of data points, right? So you're going through life and you're getting feedback from other people, and from school you get feedback on your grades, and from work you get your performance. There's all these just like metrics, but we attach emotions to those things, and that's why we get so caught up on them, as opposed to just looking at them like a science experiment, or like you're running an Excel model on your life. So I find that when we detach emotions from what we're doing in our day-to-day, we see the picture more clearly, and we're able to analyze without emotions and then come up with the solution that will serve us best. And just like any hypothesis, you have your results from that, and then how this impacts the study going forward. But a lot of us just we attach, and I do this myself, like attach these negative emotions to failure. And it's important to feel those things, but that can't impact the next thing that you do. Winston Churchill has a great quote that success is just bouncing around failures without a loss of enthusiasm, right? So like without losing that enthusiasm that I feel like a lot of people lose as they're going through life.
Amen.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Fucking right, dude.
Yeah, dude. I love it. It's been a cool conversation so far. How are we doing on time, Yabel?
46 minutes.
All right, perfect. We'll wrap up then.
Cool.
Cool. So we talked a bit, I guess 2 more questions. We talked a bit about like future focused for writing, but what about future focused for Jesse, right? Like what is that? What are kind of like some medium to long-term goals that you have over the coming months, now that you're in this new chapter of your life in Colorado?
Yeah, great question. Colorado for me right now is another layer of the foundation that I'm building, and then I can build upwards from that, right? I'm laying the foundation so I can sort of build my brickwork upward, like build my house, build my castle, if you will.
My mansion.
My mansion.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Be dope. Right now, my ambitions for this, at least the next few months, are to not only continue with my Substack, but to not get ahead of myself. Specifically, I'm looking to grow my physical training practice for myself, for other people, more importantly, to teach workshops for movement practice, specifically like hand balancing. And what I noticed, a lot of people, like I'm 29, and there's people around my age and younger and a little bit older, obviously, and they're like, my back hurts, my wrists hurt, my body hurts. I fucking hate it. I don't like myself. I'm like, well, let's fix that, or like not fix, but let's educate people how to move and how to work with their body so that they're feeling better, right? So I'm a physical trainer, movement practitioner. I want to help people feel better in their bodies. So teaching mobility workshops, partner drills, that's what it would include, right? Like proprioceptive awareness, kind of proprioception being like your body, your awareness of your body in space. Crawling patterns, all these things, like all these natural patterns of movement that we have kind of let become dormant. Kind of like you don't lose it, you use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
You don't use it, you lose it. Making it fun, making it playful. So those are the workshop settings, small group training, even in one-on-one format. So it's to grow this, to grow my movement practice business, if you will.
You're in the right place for that.
I was going to say, I don't think there's a better place than Boulder.
Yeah.
And I've heard from people too, it's like, but it's saturated. But I'm like, great, then I'm going to be the best one here.
There you go.
And that's what we should all be incentivized to be.
Yeah. If you're scared of competition, then the thing isn't for you. You're pursuing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Because a competition should excite you. It should be like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah. It's exciting because it's abundance too. It's like that whole, well, there's people I can learn from here. There's enough to go around. There's plenty of pie.
Totally.
Being money, people, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And more importantly, you get to help people. So it's like, if it's saturated and that's what's stopping you, and I'm generalizing, but then you're in the wrong thing because you're not passionate enough about what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're clearly not in it to change for the better.
Yeah.
even ulterior motives, money, whatever is shallower things. It's very evident when it gets to when you run up into that wall.
Yeah.
Saturation. It's like, yeah, great. It's gonna be tough. Okay. Like,
so is literally
so is lifting weights.
everything else is tough.
You know what that lifting weights is resistance.
Right.
You know how you get stronger moving through the resistance
Right.
intelligently.
Right.
Because you know it's on the other side, and then you learn to enjoy the resistance in of itself, like it's the journey. You know, we don't dance to get to the end. We don't listen to a song to get to the end of the song. We listen to a song to enjoy the notes along the way.
Right.
And that's life. It's a journey.
Right.
We enjoy the highs and lows and all the above.
Yeah. Well,
And-
the jujitsu analogy. Yeah. You're purple belt. I'm a white belt, and I'm like, man, like sometimes I get caught up on like the belts and the stripes and all this shit, and it's like that's not the reason that you do it. You do it to connect with other people and to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on these external things, external validation from somebody else. So yeah.
Resistance, dude. It's you pick your suffering, I guess. You just pick your hard.
Yeah.
Massively grateful that we live in a place where we can be intentional about picking our hard.
Right.
Which is super, blessed for that. And it's so you pick your heart, and then there's different frameworks and ways for people to grow in, right? I pick hand balancing and trail running movement, right? Somatic practice, hand balancing. Whatever gets you to flow, whatever allows you to sort of there's this guy actually, Devin Kelly, on Instagram. I really am a fan of his because he developed this practice called narrative excavation. It's essentially distilling, what's my understanding of it based on, read it pretty into it. It's like distilling thoughts to the point and events to the point where you're like become sort of like meta aware, like you sort of detach yourself from circumstance, and you're like, oh, okay, there I've been a victim. Okay, well, what's holding me at the victim? Cool, let's kind of remove that, and developing the capacity for not only awareness but like tools to not even cope with stress, but just to sort of become stronger. Integrative practice, right? Like not just becoming aware, not just the psychedelic nature of something where you become aware of, but
the tactical, like how do I do it?
He's super tactical, and I really respect that. So there's a thing where it's like, let's be tactical in our life. Let's be pragmatic.
Yeah.
Let's develop the capacity to be aware, right? Like just be aware of it. And then I think let's build an actual, like, let's develop the tool set or cultivate the tool set.
Yeah.
Or get the tools, whatever. And understand what the hammer is used in this context for.
Yeah.
Am I building a house? Am I going to beat somebody up with it? You can do a lot of things with a hammer, but let's figure out what the issue is. And then let's sort of like pull the nails out.
Yeah.
Let's drive the nails in. Let's understand what we're doing here, because it can be counterproductive. Ayahuasca, I'm sure, can be counterproductive.
Totally.
Depends on the context.
Totally. Something
can be a medicine or a poison. I think it depends on the dose.
Yeah.
And it also depends on the intention, I guess.
Yeah.
Why you're doing something. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, that's super cool. Very cool. What immediately came to mind when you were explaining that is I've always thought of myself 0 through 20 roughly years of my life. I always thought of myself as kind of like a pessimistic person. Until I realized that because I had always thought that was reinforcing me being a pessimist and me, being gloomy about things as opposed to being optimistic. So it was like, all right, it's probably good to be an optimist. That would probably benefit my life. Let's unlearn some of these self-talk, some of these patterns that I've had. And then let's get into the tactical part that you were talking about, like being extremely grateful for the things, or seeing, okay, maybe you're in a really bad kind of depressive low state. How can we, and it's all spectrum, how can we just inch tiny little baby steps closer to this, more positive affect and gratitude? And there's all these different things that you can do to get there. But like it's first comes from the awareness that like you are telling yourself, oh, I'm a bad speller, or I have a bad vocabulary, to use the previous example. yeah, you're reinforcing that every time you tell yourself that you have bad grammar.
Right.
So yeah, it's super interesting stuff.
And you probably will. Oh, that's a layered topic, but anyways, won't dive into it. But like, you tell yourself stories. Life is story, right? Like life is. I think would Nietzsche say this? Life is meaningless, or maybe Kierkegaard, one of the great philosophers.
Yeah.
Like life is meaningless until we give it meaning.
Right.
Essentially, and I would kind of agree. And I don't mean it in a sort of nihilistic sense, but more of in like a. I interpret it as that's cool. And I think it's cool because there's just raw potential in the world.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to understand how you want to direct your energy.
Right.
How do you want to build? How do you want to put the pieces together?
Right.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Or whether you want to become a victim of circumstance or what is his name? Bad time, forget it. The prisoner in one of the concentration camps.
Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
Super extreme example.
Yeah.
You know.
You choose how you react to your external circumstances.
Exactly.
No matter how grim they are.
Extreme example, but like just to highlight that point, it's just like, victim circumstance or empowerment. No matter what happens on the outside, you always have a choice to how you decide. Doesn't matter what happens, or at least your intention. Whatever you get the point.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. This has been a blast. I have one more question that I finish every single conversation with, that I ask all my guests, and I'm just curious as to your rationales, to your answer. Do you think that you were born, or do you think you were made?
I think I was born or made. I'm gonna go with born. I think I was born. I think I was born because. Well, I think I was born into the world. I think I carry with me. I'm a believer of the whole, like, everything's energy. It's not created nor destroyed. It is only transferred.
Yeah.
So I apply that to death, birth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm birthed into the world, born into the world.
Yeah.
There was not nothingness before this, and it won't be nothingness after.
Right.
I think. Oh, it's such a wide question.
It is. You can answer however you
yeah,
like.
Yeah, totally. No,
I'm of the made camp.
Cool.
I think I was made in that I felt that I needed things externally from me to make me and craft me into the person that I've become.
I see.
But I always go back and forth because you're born that way, and you're born open to those things that end up making you into the person. So it's a paradigm. It's a question that doesn't really necessarily have an answer.
Totally.
But yeah, just some more context into like my thoughts of how I think about
it. Yeah. So with that, then I'd still go with born, because we are born into this world and we leave this world the same way.
Yeah.
We're born super wide-eyed, impressionable, and very, I guess, spiritually connected to the divine, to the love. Most babies are pretty
enlightened.
Yeah, like enlightened little beings, little Buddhas running around, like wide-eyed and receptive, taking in information. And then you leave the world. I would say largely the same way. I don't mean to generalize, but if you didn't get to where you wanted to in life, might be regret. But there's like this meta awareness of like, oh, there's more to it, or oh, I'm so grateful. So like there's reflection at the end of life. I think in the middle is where you can be made. You can make yourself however you want, according to your. I'm not going to be a LeBron.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good. I could stick with that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. I'm going to be the best version I can be, and that's way better.
Yeah.
Because why am I going to try to be somebody else when I can maximize this?
Right.
There's a dude out there with no legs, and he's become this massive influencer, and not only influencer in the shallow sense on social media, but like he empowers a lot of people. He's like, hey, I literally don't have legs, and I don't think he has an arm, and he's, he does so many cool things. I think he supports a lot of charities, and anyways, he brings a lot of awareness to really support important issues.
Nice.
It's possible. So it's like you maximize you're given a hand of cards. Don't pity a hand of cards. I think just utilize the hand of cards you were dealt. And I think you'll find yourself in a generally, I don't know, just a place of alignment, a place you're kind of in the pocket of a wave.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to say this and speak from this place because sometimes I'm like, I feel guilty. I really feel like I was dealt a really good hand of cards in my life. The problems that I have, I think other people write blank checks for. I used to not think that. Now I'm like, oh, fuck. So I really do feel like guilty saying that sometimes. Just do this. I hate giving advice because it's like,
yeah.
I always feel like there's a sense of ignorance. Like,
yeah.
How dare I tell somebody what to do?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways.
I think about this concept, which you just mentioned about everybody has the worst thing that's ever happened to them.
Yeah.
Everybody has that.
Yeah, totally.
But the degree to, from a rational mind, how big of, how fucked up that thing is, or how like wrong that thing is, or horrible that thing is. Like, I always am extremely respective of people that have served in the military, because the worst thing that they've ever experienced is combat and is like death and destruction, especially with all these things going on in our world now. And like, yeah. I reflect that to the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And it's like, I shouldn't even be complaining. But I always go back and forth with that as well, because the worst thing that happened to you is the worst thing that's happened to you. Like, you don't know what that's like until you've experienced the warfare or the death or the, really difficult things that really make life what it is. So, yeah.
Like, it's all relative. Right?
It's all relative.
It's all relative. And I think there should be a sense of humility. Like, I don't know everything. I don't know what it's like to be that person, especially if you don't share the same experience.
Yeah.
I think compassion then is the way. And I think compassion requires a massive level of humility. To say this, humility in the sense that I don't know what it's like to not have legs. I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
But I have compassion for that person because, in an empowering sense, like, they're doing probably, I would like to say, the best that they can. Yeah. With their circumstance.
Yep.
And I will never know what it's like. It's like, I guess it's all perspective, man. Like, it's just, everything's just fractalized like a kaleidoscope, and we're all just little beings, like little parts of the whole, experiencing itself subjectively. And then I think we die, go back to that sort of unified consciousness. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, we're back. That's my experience with the psychedelics and just, some meditations even. It's just been like, oh, okay. I think compassion is one of the most important attributes that you can have as a human being. And it's a little side tangent, but then also patience. Have some patience. Most people don't have patience. I think patience is one of the greatest virtues one can have. Attribute, one of those things. Patience with the process. A tree doesn't grow overnight. Yeah. You're not going to dig up the seed. Actually, it was funny. A really good friend, Jonah Kest, yoga teacher. We were at a yoga teacher training of his, and he brought up this idea that, like, you don't plant a seed and expect the tree to grow the next day. You have to trust that the seed will do its thing if you give it the right nutrients and the water and the soil. And trust it's going to grow up and be the tree that it will be meant to be. But give it the right nutrients and soil, and trust that it will grow. Give the sun. Yeah. And it will. Yeah. Give it the water. Right. And plant it in the right soil. Plant it in the wrong soil, it probably won't grow. It's not a happy seed.
Love it. Cool.
Word.
Well, yeah, that's all I had. Do you have anything else you want to say to the people out there on the internet?
Yeah, so I do Substack. I think the particular channel, actually, I'm gonna find the name. I don't want to fudge it.
Yeah, everyone make sure to follow and read his Substack.
I would love to share the Substack. I think it's just so it's at JManWrite. So JManWrite. Can find me on there. It's just for the ones asking the deeper questions in life. I try to put my best foot forward to share the thoughts, and hopefully that resonates with people.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thanks for the time, Jesse. This
Okay.
was a blast, brother.
Fucking awesome.
And yeah, thanks folks for listening, and stay tuned for episode 4.